Here we are.
Well, good afternoon. It's high noon here on the East Coast of the United States. Welcome to whatever time zone you're joining us with today. And that's actually going to be while everyone comes in and gets settled for our event today. Go ahead and put in the comments now where you're joining from and what time it is, because sometimes I get folks who come from all across the world. And so, thank you again for joining us for another of my audio series, now video for today, of the post career lifestyle planning session. And today's topic is on faith or the benefits of faith. Particularly, will be focused on a post career life, but I think we all know that faith in and of itself covers any particular time frame of life that you're in. And you'll notice, for those of you who have joining me on LinkedIn, it's a live event, a live stream. However, for those of you who are joining us from YouTube and Facebook, this is probably the first time, since I've only been doing this exclusively, like I said, from an audio event area there. So again, welcome everyone who's coming to joining us today. Um, First of all, let me tell you about me, because I get new people all the time, and the only thing you might know is about the profile you might be reading on social media. I'm Dave. I am the founder of the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program, and I help senior business professionals who see, retirement on the horizon and are thinking about what post-career life is going to be like. And so I help people craft that particular strategy for a post-career life that brings fulfillment, contentment, meaning, and hopefully joy. My special guest today, and we'll get into the details here a little bit, is the Reverend Dr. Susan Rose, and I invited the Reverend Doctor on because of our topic today, revolving around this idea of faith. And faith is a very broad subject that you have to cover, and it can cover and mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Before I officially introduce her, though, let me go over what I do are typically housekeeping issues. And those housekeeping issues are, I usually, these events last between 30 and 40 minutes long. I do that to try to get done before the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour if you're, say, from India. And so that gives you enough time. However, if there's a lot of questions, and that's what I really encourage, so get your questions ready as we get going here. Uh, but I want to have the opportunity for you to ask those questions. And so if we go the full hour, we're happy to do that. Just glad you've joined us here, whether you're going to be multitasking, kind of listening with one ear as you do other work, that's great too. Uh, Also, uh, as I said, would really enjoy asking questions and providing your input on that. What I wanted to do with this particular topic is, because there's a lot of religious events going on with a variety of different faiths. There's the Jewish Passover that's occurring right now. For Islam, they're kind of in the middle of Ramadan. I think it's towards the latter part of this month. And then for us as Christians, this is Holy Week, and today is Maundy Thursday. It's the time where we will commemorate, millions of Christians around the world will commemorate the Last Supper of Jesus Christ. And so it's in that vein that I wanted to go ahead and have us have this discussion about faith in a career life. What I wanted to also do is kind of define what this idea of faith is. I'm going to start by quoting Christian scripture. This is Hebrews 11:1, which defines faith as a confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. And for those of us who believe in a higher power, there is this sense that we don't see everything related to, particularly for us as Christians, as it relates to God. So there's this component of faith that says we believe in God or the higher power as a means for us to practice that particular religious faith. And so, from a post career standpoint, This is Dave's definition of faith, so please feel free to poke holes in it. Maybe even the Reverend Doctor will poke holes in it herself. But from a post-career standpoint, I have it as it's looking at something greater than yourself that provides you with inspiration, direction, focus, purpose, and meaning, but then that allows you to take that experience or those directions that you're seeking and apply it internally back into yourself to live the best quality of life that you possibly can. So that's the definition by which I'm going to be working from. But I would now like to introduce to you my special guest, and that is the Reverend Dr. Susan Rose. I'm going to lead off. Many of you probably know this who are joining us, but the Reverend Dr. Rose is my wife. So of 29 years. So we know each other very well and go through this post-career lifestyle strategy. We've gone through it a lot together. But Susan is the executive director and founder of Diagonal Solutions, which is a nonprofit ministry whose mission is to engage, encourage, and empower women in ministry through mentoring. And so as Susan pursued her doctor of ministry, she learned more about something that she already knew, that women in ministry face unique challenges across a variety of aspects of age, denomination, and even their ministry context. And so she believes in the ancient practice of mentorship, and that is an invaluable tool that women can use in any ministry leadership context. Also, Susan ministers at Memorial Presbyterian Church in St. Augustine, Florida, where she preaches, leads worship, and provides pastoral care as part of the amazing pastoral staff that's there. And I get to say amazing because I'm a member of the church there, so call me biased, but I think they're all great, including the Reverend Dr. Susan Rose. So Susan, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about yourself that I didn't include.
I'm a bit of a ringer as a guest, so
I'm not hearing you.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
No.
If I can ask anybody, maybe I can't hear, but can someone put in the comments, can they hear Susan?
Anyone? Bueller?
Anybody? I don't see anything come through in the comments yet. Not hearing you.
Let's see.
Okay, you went mute.
And anything? Nope.
So I am not. Oh, okay. Thank you, Tina. Tina can hear both of us. Oh, thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, Nisar. So, all right, go ahead. So another inside baseball comment or inside the family household. This wall behind us is a common wall. So she's behind me and I'm behind her. So thank you, Madeline. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you all doing this. All right, Susan, tell us now that that's been affirmed. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Dave and I have been married for 29 years. Both of us, when it comes to faith, both of us came to the marriage curious about faith and spirituality, but neither one of us was, well, I was a member of a church, but I had just joined, like I was on the rolls, but not really disciplined. So we really kind of came to faith together through our marriage. And so it's been a journey for us. And you know, I didn't start out as wanting to go into ministry. Actually getting to church every Sunday was probably a big achievement. So, you know, becoming a minister and then pursuing my doctorate is something that we kind of came together on, that we've, you know, that was part of our family goals. When I sensed my call, we have 2 young adult children. Dave is semi-retired now, working with Infinity Lifestyle Design. I am bivocational with the church, working at the church, and then also with my nonprofit. I do several things under the umbrella of the nonprofit. I do spiritual direction, I do mentoring, I do doctoral coaching. I work with a seminary with doctoral students. Yeah, just a lot of different things. So
She wears
what
a lot of different
a lot of
hats
hats,
in the
a lot of
house.
hats. Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
hats in the house.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, again, anybody who has any questions as we get going, please feel free to put them in the chat. Because this is a little bit different than what I do on the audio version. Excuse me if my multitasking fails a little bit, but definitely want to get some questions. So, Susan, really the first question for you is: so I had put my little faith designation up here. What does faith, or how do you define faith from a religious perspective?
Well, I was actually looking at it from a post-career standpoint. And I would say it's about relationships. It's hopefully, I would say, deepening your relationship with the divine. In our tradition, we're a Trinitarian tradition, so God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. But also deepening your relationship with a faithful community. So that's how I I would define faith, really in relationship and in community, um, in a post-career context.
Okay. Okay. Great. And then what I know you mentioned a little bit as you introduced yourself, but what are some other ways that religious faith has played a point in your life, or in your life up to this point?
Oh, all right. So, just just as an FYI, Dave and I didn't weren't raised in the church, so that's where our stories are very much parallel. Um, and so we explored faith on our own. And so faith has been a key component in our relationship and in our family, how we try to live our lives, how we spend our time and our money. And for me, it's as I mentioned, I'm what they in my tradition, what they call a second career pastor, which means I didn't go to college and then go to seminary. I was out in the workforce. I was working. Dave and I were married. We were starting a family, and then I sensed a call, and that has shaped our life because of our 29 years of marriage, I've gone to school, I think 25 of them. So it is, he's asked, "Are you done yet?" And I think I'm done, but I didn't finish with the doctorate. I finished with a certification in spiritual direction. So that was I think I'm done, at least for now. I don't know
And
how much more I can get. So,
well, and that 25-year journey, so to speak, could be a whole nother
but
a
yeah.
whole nother a podcast or event in and of itself, just because of the length of times and the ups and downs that went through that. So when you look at, because obviously you deal with in your pastoral care option, you deal with people of variety different age groups, and you have dealt with that through parts of your career
Mhm.
when it's been direct congregational care. And so what do you see as, for people, your experience as a pastor, what have you seen as benefits of having a vibrant faith, either community or faith practice, in post-career life?
Um, so I would say there are two different things that connect and overlap. So, I think it's really important to have a personal faith practice, and how you approach that or design that or work through that is really up to you. But having time in, and again, this is from a Christian perspective, so please take that lens and adjust it if you are not Christian, but um, faithful and practicing. So Holy Scriptures or devotional reading, those are great places to start. Quiet time, um, all of that keeps you personally centered, but then engaging in a faith community is really important, because you are not all by yourself in faith, and so practicing in a faith community, whether it's a church or a small group or something where others are with you and you're on the same, you're trying to go in the same direction. It's really important. It's really important. So it's a both and. It's a both and.
Great, great. So, Jitendra, I hope I said that correctly. He asks, what is the biggest challenge in your life currently?
Well, as Dave knows,
don't say me, please. Don't say me.
No, Dave is not my biggest challenge, but Dave knows time and time management, because I have a lot of different balls in the air. I do a lot of different things, and in church work, no one schedules a crisis, and no one schedules ill health or anything like that. So those kind of interruptions disrupt my when I do plan. People interrupt, and I'm kind of in the people interrupting business. So knowing when to honor the interruption and take care of people, and when to maybe push back a little bit. So it's having enough time to do everything, and managing my time is probably my biggest challenge.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. That's a good one. So again, if anybody has anything else, please dive in. I'll try to catch it in the chat as I see it. So what are some examples of some practices that you have seen, some practical things as you've worked with people in retirement or post-career that you're like, that's a good model, or that's a good example of how to operate from a faith perspective in post-career?
That's really broad. Do you have, do you want me to just, I could go in a lot of different directions.
Well, pick one first. So what came to your mind first?
So the first thing is people in post-career life, their time is more flexible. They're also, retired people are probably the busiest people I have ever met, at least for the vast majority of the people that I encounter in my faith community. So developing some sort of small group, whatever you may call it. You may call it Bible study. You may call it, there are different affinity groups at our church. So some of them do Bible study. Some of them are more fellowship based, but any group that you can join that is a small group that you develop community with, deeper community, more than just, hello on a Sunday morning at a worship service, but that you actually get to know people. That would be my number one, developing community. And having the time, because when you're in the middle of your career, especially people with families, you're hanging on for dear life between work demands and family demands. So you don't really have the time. You may be able to, you may carve out the time, but it's, you have more flexibility retirement or post-career life to prioritize that, because you don't have the work demands or the family demands. So that's probably my number one.
Well, that aligns with a lot of statistics that are out there. When you head into retirement or post-career life, whatever you define that as, your social network's going to drop probably more than 50%. Because if you look at the acquaintances that you have, whether particularly on the professional side, coworkers, supervisors, clients, if you serve clients, suppliers, or vendors, when you add all those social interactions up and take it away, your world shrinks a lot. And so I think for us personally, we rely on it now, but we'll really rely on our faith community as that social network, that ability for us to be able to engage with others with meaningful activities, because you'll have more time to do that. So very, very important that everyone realizes the impact of post-career is going to have on just the circle of people that you're going to engage with. So, Susan, where do you see, actually a little surprising nugget I got there was the fact that the people that you engage with in retirement are extremely busy, because that statistically is not the case overall. So anecdotally here, again, Dave, an anecdotal thing from that conversation is that a faith community is going to provide you with productive activities and to fill that vacuum that a post-career does with meaningful activity, because that's not the case statistically. So thank you for sharing that. So
go ahead. I would say it's probably split between the really busy and the really inactive. So I don't doubt your statistic at all. It's just a lot of the people that I encounter are really busy. They're very engaged, and they're engaged in a lot of different things. There's church work, but there's a lot of other things that they have taken as priorities in their flexible, post-career lives.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So where have you seen in your experience, on the flip side, as we just talked about, where people post-career wise have struggled even in a faith community?
So this is all right. So I think it's probably an alignment of expectations. So if you have tangentially participated in your faith community and then you get involved more, you may discover that that your expectations aren't aligning with reality of the people or the activities or anything like that. So I think that's probably one of the things I would be aware of as you dive deeper into community, because people can be one way in a brief encounter and can be very different when you're sitting over a meal with them or when you're involved with an activity with them. So I'd say that's one of the things. I think the expectation that maybe that the church is going to fulfill all their needs. And, the church is full of people, and people tend to disappoint people, even in the best of circumstances. So again, and that goes back to expectations, and aligning your expectations with the reality of what people can do and what the church can do.
Got it. And is retirement different? Is the approach different for men than it is women? How do we handle that, and what do you see as differences?
Well, the first difference is that women live longer than men. So men I mean, statistically, and we see it at church, men die younger. And so they're, women as widows, again, that's a huge life transition of losing your partner, and having a community is really important to that. Women, I've seen it with both genders that in post-career life, they are looking forward to prioritizing something that has been meaningful to them, and they haven't had time before this. And so I think women are probably, I see more women active, and that may be the areas that I work in with the church. But also, women traditionally, I mean, they're taking care of the family, and it's about midlife. It's right before retirement that they are, they have the freedom to do more. And so retirement is a whole nother level of freedom for women who've been caring for people. Some want to continue on in those caregiving roles, and the church or a faith community is a great place to plug into that. Men may struggle more because career identity doesn't necessarily transfer into a faith context, although there are plenty of ways with operational areas of the church. There isn't a church around that doesn't need some extra help behind the scenes, anywhere from office to taking care of the physical plant of the church in different ways, and not in, I'm not talking about custodial work per se. I'm talking about, the landscaping. It's mainly volunteers that do people who love landscaping and flowers and planting. It's volunteers who do that. So yeah, I mean, we've got in our church, we've got paid staff to do office work, but every week, one or two volunteers come in to work, just because of the volume of work behind the scenes. So there are a lot of different ways to plug in, and it's how do you want to align your identity and accepting your post-career identity. If you want it to be the same level that you were at in your career, it's probably not going to translate really well. So, you have to, but there are probably nonprofits that would absolutely love to have that kind of experience coming in on a volunteer basis. So you have to be, I would say, proactive in looking and asking around, but then also patient.
No, that's great advice. Again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. The two of us we can just keep talking for the entire length of time if needed. But obviously, if anyone has something that comes up, please go ahead and put it in the chat. I want to affirm what Susan said, particularly as it relates to people who are trying to transition, maybe don't want to do a hard break from their career, but want flexibility. The nonprofit world is starved for people with strong business acumen to come in and help run. So many organizations are started, in the case particularly with the faith community, because people feel like they're led by God to do these ministries or these nonprofits. And in many cases, the people start with a great heart, but lack some of the business skills. And that's where someone who's like, I want to transition into a life of more flexibility, but I want to do something with more meaning and purpose. And nonprofits a great way. And as Susan mentioned, they're not necessarily out there. You can probably find them on LinkedIn, but so many of those particularly local positions are just something you've got to go walk in and basically show through your business strategy that you can bring value to them if that interests you. There are also on LinkedIn, there are definitely paid nonprofit positions if that's what you want. And so look on LinkedIn and search there on LinkedIn for those. You'll be able to find that as well. So Affirm, I'm not agreeing with her just because she's my wife. That was sounded nice. So, so as we age, our spiritual journey has changed significantly. I find more as I get older, there's more I need to learn. And when I figure I have it figured out, it's like, well, no, you don't. So obviously our mindset's been different when we first got married in our 20s versus where we are a couple of years later. So what do you recommend people can do spiritually from the faith standpoint? What are some areas they can do to grow as they get older?
Oh, well, that's where the time and flexibility is probably your biggest asset. So, whereas during career and raising families, you tend to be um, really, I don't want to say stuck, but you're in one place. You don't have the ability. There are all sorts of religious conferences that you can attend, and fun. I mean, like fun. When I say conference, don't think of like business, but these are in camp. In our tradition, we call it camp and conference settings. I mean, there are big ones. I can put names in the chat that they have summer long programming, then they've got fall programming and winter programming and spring programming. And so they have guest speakers, they have specific topics. I really think that's probably what I'm looking forward to in post-career life, is having that flexibility to attend things that interest me, that you didn't have the time or the money to do when you were working. That's probably the biggest thing. The other thing is, again, exploring different things within your own faith community. Maybe you didn't have time for an in-depth Bible study when you were working. And now you've got the time and you can sit and squirrel on different things. And there's so much online now. You don't need, like, I've got commentaries back here. You don't need the library of commentaries. There are so many resources online that you can really, if that's what you are interested in, you can really dig in. You can attend or start a book club. So there are different ways you can go on silent retreats. It's really endless. It's only limited by your own imagination is what I would say on that but you can really explore things in a way that you couldn't do when you were working and raising a family.
So a side note, everybody, about the books. She pointed behind her on the books. What's out of view is a whole nother section of books. And books. Then in full disclosure, some of the ones behind me here, they're hers. So yes, voracious reader.
Our biggest argument was the Great Book Purge when we moved, and then we had to purge again. Well, I had to purge again. And now I do a lot of Kindle, so he doesn't know how many books I have. So there.
They're all organized in a place though for me. So
a lot of books. I love books. Yes. Books are my friend. Yeah.
So sorry everybody for sharing that, but I just wanted to give you some context. So again, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat for Susan or for me, either one. So let me ask you, what for you is your ideal retirement life? Hopefully I'm in that mix somewhere, but that's not in there. I added.
Wait,
I added this.
Yeah. Ideal. Like that wasn't on the question list.
See, I shared just again another thing. In order to help solve not having any marital issues, I actually gave her the questions up front. I normally don't do that with guests, but I threw in one that wasn't in there. So
yeah. All right. So
the question is, what's your ideal post-career or retirement life for you?
you know that I would like the alarm not to go off as early, maybe not even have an alarm go off. I really enjoy drinking coffee and reading the paper in the morning. Dave is a little bit more of a get up and go kind of guy.
Got to hit the ground running.
I would appreciate a little slower pace. I am hoping that grandkids are in our future, and that we will have a really robust relationship with our grandchildren, and being able to see them and spend time with our kids. Spending time with our kids, which is more of a challenge, because with young adults, they're busy. They're busy establishing their lives, and they don't stay in one place for very long. And so seeing our kids, knocking some things off of our bucket list, reading, probably doing some writing, but just a little slower pace. That's life. And I say that, and like just a little slower pace is probably what I would like for us. We tend to work at a very fast pace.
we do, and we enjoy what we do, which obviously that just to add a little bit of context to that, our post-career lifestyle strategy has been very, very involved. It actually goes back years ago, when Michael Hyatt wrote a book called Living Forward. And I took a vacation day from work, and we actually sat at the kitchen or the dining room table and talked about what the future wasn't necessarily post-career life at that time, but it was eye-opening for me because it helped us set up what the other was thinking. A lot of times when I work with clients, there's eye-opening experiences, like the husband declares he's retiring at a certain age and the wife says, that's not happening. Or what do you want to do? You want to do what? Or I want to do this and I don't want to have anything to do with it. Or what am I going to do if I have to spend my entire time with my spouse? So I would say, I don't care whatever age you are, if you have a spouse or significant other or partner, have some goal planning strategy for the future. And Susan mentioned the bucket list. We have our bucket list written down in our kitchen about some of the things that we want to do. Susan got to check off one of her bucket list items by going to Cuba this year. One of the things we're working on, as I've mentioned in my audio series before, is hiking the Grand Canyon rim to rim. But put down anything and everything that may even seem crazy to you, or even crazy to your spouse or significant other, because that generates ideas, thoughts, and items. As a matter of fact, was it 2 weeks ago or last week, you read a Wall Street Journal article about hiking, the top 5 hiking areas to go to, and we added a couple of those spots to our bucket list items. We may never get to it. So a robust post-career goal planning strategy that you can apply at any time in your life is, first of all, develop a life purpose statement. And I think the two of us, we need to hone in on that a little bit more. We've got a good idea of what our purpose is, but obviously you need to have your separate purpose statement and then your joint purpose statement together, which we definitely have to work on. But then you have your bucket list, which you have no time frame with. You just start, it's like throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. And then you do your long-term planning, and that's 2 to 4 years. And that's when you say, you know what, it comes off my bucket list. I'm kind of serious about this. And so you think about it, and that's where we're kind of at on the Grand Canyon rim to rim. We've done some initial planning. It's pretty much right now what I would call the long-term planning phase. Once, if we solidify that for 2024, then it moves to the third one, which is an annual goal. That's something you're going to do within a calendar year. And then you have mid or short-term goals, which are those 3 to 6 months. It's just something important for us. That could be a long weekend that we want to take to go visit our kids. You set that in as a short-term goal. So a long-term or life purpose statement bucket list, long-term, annual, and short-term, is the goal mix I would recommend for you to keep your what's important to you front of mind, center, so that you can have an active and robust post career life,
Mhm.
and that goal strategy's done together. Doesn't mean you can't have independent goals, of which we both do. We
Mhm.
have independent goals. Like Cuba was not on my bucket list. It's something that if she goes back, I will probably go back with her, but I don't consider it a bucket list item for me. It was really important to her.
Mhm.
So as her spouse, what can I do to help support
Mhm.
to make that type of thing happen? So
Also, just a note on the rim to rim, we were set. We were in the process of training for that right before COVID, and so
mhm.
this is and the reason I think with your bucket list items or long term goals, we're now a couple years down the road, and we understand that that's not a goal that's going to keep for us as we continue to age because it's 26
Right.
miles down and up, and so that we need to prioritize that at the front end for us, while we're still able to do that. So that's the other reason to get everything down, and just you have to look at what what needs to be done more sooner than later.
Right.
So
And Maria, thank you for joining. Maria has been one of my regulars on the audio event, so thanks for switching over for the live event here. I really appreciate that. Again, any questions anybody has, please pop them in there. We'll be happy to try to answer, at least from our perspective, knowing it's us,
Mhm.
and you can take it for the grain of salt as you want.
Mhm.
So Susan, for we talked about it a little bit, but what are ways that you can see retirees either serving the faith community or more broadly, even the community,
Oh,
if the faith component's not necessarily as important for individuals?
oh, that's a no brainer. Retirees, or post career people are so vital to in our community. They're the ones that are running. um, I'm thinking it's an organization that does food for at-risk kids at a elementary school that is that everyone is. It's I think it's 100% um, free lunch. So
Mm,
they're well below the poverty line. It's the retirees that run that. They make sure those kids have food every week. That they take them home in their backpacks. They're the ones organizing the Christmas gifts for them every year. Um, so your retirees are the ones who are providing social services outside of the government sphere. Anything that is either religious or nonprofit, it is predominantly retirees that are volunteering and running those organizations, and stuff would not get done in our community if it were not for them. It's the same thing as I look at the church. It's the retirees who are volunteering um, to take meals or do visitation or any special services that we have and we need extra help. It's, because it's hard when you're working, you can't take time off, or you have to take time off to be able to volunteer. And that becomes really difficult. So, yeah, retirees are really the foundation for a lot of community services and church work that would not get done without them. They're vital. They're absolutely vital.
great, great. Well, before we wrap up with my last question for you, I just a couple of things for you all to consider as you try to dive into a post-career life, and whether it's on the horizon, you're thinking about it, or you're just trying to search for more flexibility. The first thing I just wanted to invite you that a week from today, Thursday, which is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm having my next workshop, my Life Beyond Career workshop, and that's Who Will I Be Beyond Work? So if you want to learn more, it's in the comments, so you can check the comments or the show notes. The link is there. Just feel free to check that out. There's 2 sessions. There's the workshop session, and then there's a VIP session, which is a question and answer session afterwards. So please feel free to take a look at that. If you're just not sure and want to say, where do I start? I'd encourage you, go ahead and take, I have what's called the retirement time analysis or a post-career lifestyle quiz. So if you want to take that, and I'll send you a free summary assessment within 48 hours. It sets up like a nice foundation for you to understand, based upon 6 different categories, where maybe you can focus your time and attention to prepare that correct lifestyle strategy. So please look at those. If you're not sure, don't see them or whatever, just direct message me on any one of the platforms and just simply say send info. I'll send you the links to both of those, and you can go ahead and take a look at those and consider if any one of those can be a great start for you. All right. So, Susan, the last question I've got are, what are the key items that people should consider about their faith as they prepare for a post-career life?
I think the biggest thing is that your faith life is going to be in transition just like the rest of your life. And so to be gentle with yourself, obviously, I would hope that the foundation of faith is still there for you, but how you participate, how you explore, all of that is also going to be in transition, because your post-career life is different than the life that you live currently. And so, just be gracious with yourself in how you approach things, but don't be afraid to try new things. And it's okay to say, it's okay to try different things and say, okay, that's not for me. Whether it's a new group or it's a conference or it's a Bible study or whatever, but just try different things. Try it out for a little bit. And if it's not your thing, then it's okay, and try something else. But be consistent in trying different things until you find what works for you in your post-career life. So I would just say, again, your limitation is your imagination, and then just go for it.
So I lied. I have one more question for
Uh-oh.
you. One more question is, so did our marriage survive this?
I think our marriage survived this. So
I think so too. I was feeling pretty good about that. I hope I wasn't, after 29 years, misreading your body language, but I thought it went pretty well. So, well, listen, everybody, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Susan, thank you for joining me. We'll probably go out here and grab some lunch in the kitchen here in just a second. But I wish everyone, for those of us who are Christians, I wish everyone a wonderful, meaningful, and impactful Holy Week. Monday, Thursday, we have Good Friday tomorrow, and then Easter Sunday, the pinnacle of our faith. For those watching from the Jewish faith, happy Passover to you. Again, hope it's meaningful for you. And then obviously those folks of us who are practicing Ramadan today, you've got a longer journey ahead of you. I know the sunrise to sundown fasting. Again, for everybody, it's my wish, and I know it's Susan's wish, that your faith journey now is an important aspect of your life now, but that it is something that you can really, really rely on in post-career life. For us, I can see that intensity going up as we hit post-career life, is that we're not only going to rely on just our Christian faith and walk, but also the benefits that it brings us from a post-career life, just because of the need of having those deeper social interactions. So everyone, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day. It's been an honor and a pleasure having you joining us.